professional interview. So, in the days before the interview, you're definitely going to want to practice your interview, and SNHU can absolutely help you with that with a mock interview. This can help to take the edge off and streamline your answers. Make sure you practice answering questions the way you would in a traditional interview, but don't memorize answers as this can come off as robotic or insincere. Be sure to pick out your outfit a couple days in advance. When you're doing this, be sure to know your environment because you don't want to overdress for or underdress for an interview. If you're a little confused, always err on the side of overdressing, and we'll review interview outfits next. Be sure to practice your handshake because this is your employer's second impression of you. Make sure you have a firm, confident handshake, but don't have a too firm handshake or worse, a too limp handshake. So, dressy interview outfits, do's and don'ts. The interview outfit do's, you're going to want to make sure to pick a neutral clothing and shoe color, such as beige, black, brown, blue, and gray. Wear a wrinkle-free outfit. We'll address this again later. It's very important. But most importantly, pick an outfit that makes you feel confident and self-assured in your interview. Always err on the side of modesty. Interview outfit don'ts. Don't wear an outfit that is too baggy or too tight. Be sure that you iron and press your outfit before the interview. Don't just spray the Downy wrinkle-free spray and hope for the best. Definitely iron and press it. Interview outfits, business casual, men and women. So for this one, you can take a look at the picture. I really like that the business casual attire can be kind of switched up a little bit. So if you're going to a more casual interview, you can definitely wear for women a blouse with some dress slacks and closed-toed shoes, or a twin set with a skirt and hosiery. Um, Men can err on the side of a sweater with a collared shirt underneath, or they could do a shirt, a button-down shirt, or an optional tie. Um, you always want to pair that, men, with dress slacks and dark socks and dress shoes. So on the interview day, you're going to want to leave plenty of time for everything. Whatever time you think you need.
One second, guys, just dealing with some audio issues. Hold on one.
Testing, testing. Can everybody hear me? Great. Okay, so just to back up for a second, on the interview day, be sure to leave plenty of time for everything. Get up early for a morning interview. Leave about a half an hour extra for whatever you think you need. Tack on an extra half an hour to that because you want to make sure that you have enough time for the 3 Ds: dressing, doing hair, makeup, and driving. Don't arrive too early for the interview. Arrive to the office location and enter the room about 10 to 15 minutes early. This is because if you arrive about half an hour early, that'll allow plenty of time for you to get in your head and look a little insecure to your prospective employers. Allow enough time for you to get there and look enthusiastic and ready, but not so soon that you look too eager. About 10 to 15 minutes early is a good sweet spot, and remember, the only thing worse than arriving too early to an interview is arriving too late. Can you guys hear me now? Okay, great. So bring multiple copies. Sorry about that, guys. Bring multiple copies of your resume. About 5 should be sufficient unless you know you're in a panel interview, because then you're going to want to bring more. The reason why you want to bring 5 is because traditionally there's more than one person in an interview, unless, of course, you know you're in a panel interview, and then there's definitely more than one person in an interview. You don't want to bring these items loose leaf, such as your resumes, your notepad, and a pen. You definitely want to bring these in a folder. Be sure to turn your phone off. You may be tempted to leave your phone on silent. Don't. Because the moment you leave the car to the moment you get back to the car, your phone is off and preferably in the car. Most importantly, and this is a big point, you want to treat everyone from your front door of your home to the interview as if they know the interviewer or are the interviewer themselves. You never know who knows whom. This is crucial because one time we had a student who was going to an interview on a train and they were taking the last seat on the train, and it turns out the person they took that seat from was the interview themselves. You definitely don't want that to be you and don't put yourself in a more awkward situation than you need to. So be sure to treat everyone with graciousness and respect during the interview. Keep calm and talk on. Definitely know that you deserve to be there. Relax and have a conversation. Sit up straight. It's very important that you don't take over the conversation or be too familiar because at the same time as you deserve to be there, you definitely want to know that you're still aiming to impress your interviewer. Ask questions if you're offered the chance. This is crucial because it's your chance to know, to learn what you want to know about the company culture, job training, following up, and more. Don't ask about salary, hours, or benefits, but do make sure you ask thoughtful, well timed questions. Be gracious. Thank the interviewers for their time, but don't overthank them or overstay your welcome. After the interview, you're going to want to send a prompt thank you note. This is important and you want to do this ASAP. You can mention something that you enjoy talking about in the interview. Don't forget to send one. Send a generic thank you note. Definitely don't do that. Or misspell the name of your interviewer. Interviewers, plural. Okay? So, additionally, you can follow up a few days after they said they'd get back to you. Make sure that you ask, in your own words, for an update on your application. Be gracious. But don't follow up before they said they'd get back to you, assume the sale, or anything else that would be considered ungracious. So at this point in time, I'm going to pull back the chat box. If you guys could ask any questions that you have, that'd be great. I'm just going to wait for you guys to ask your questions. We're getting some questions in now. Okay, so we have a student asking a question about re-entering the workforce. How do you address an absence from the workforce? That's a really good question, Kim. What I'm going to suggest is definitely talk with a career counselor or a career advisor here at SNHU, and we can talk to you about how to address your specific absence. But in general, you can put up things such as you can address that in your cover letter occasionally. You could address that in your resume in certain ways, but most definitely know that you don't have to address any kind of um, disabilities, any kind of caring for family members. You don't have to explain that in depth. Just put something a little bit vague on your cover letter, just like I'm looking to re-enter the workforce and I'm very excited, enthusiastic about this opportunity. And Danielle actually put in a link to the practice interviewing page on our COC career inbox. Any other questions? Oh, here we go. Sharon asked, can you be too friendly or smile too much in an interview? I'm having trouble finding a happy medium. Me too. I definitely struggle with that in the beginning. So what you can do is So I found it was tough to figure out when to smile and when to make eye contact because sometimes it can be tough to know, or you don't want to just stare at the interviewer, but you don't want to make it look like you're darting your eyes all around. What I would recommend is if you're a little unsure, let your interviewer lead in that respect. You can take a look and take some nonverbal cues for them. If they're smiling, you smile. If they're looking at you, look right at them. If they're looking away, take that chance to glance somewhere else. Does that make sense? Awesome. So Samantha was asking, I have a hard time saying too much or having too many answers. So Samantha, it definitely depends on what you're referring to when you're talking about too many answers, but a good rule of thumb is the toughest question in an interview can be, um, tell me about yourself, right? That can be a really tough question because you don't know what to say. You don't want to boast, but you don't want to sound too modest. A good rule of thumb is to have 2 to 3 points that relate to the employer that you're really proud of. Use those points to craft your About Me section of the interview and don't ramble because when you feel like you're rambling, what my trick is I tend to take a deep breath and I pause for just a beat and I think, all right, does my employer really need to know this? And then I kind of reorganize my thoughts. Does that make sense? So, for example, if somebody's saying, tell me about yourself, oh, well, I'm from Illinois, I do this, and I'm really proud and really excited about these opportunities. Absolutely, Kim. Please be in touch with us. So, we have a few other questions coming through. So, you're asking about assessment tests, Brandy, and you're saying that the interviewers are saying that they're not important, but you always feel rushed with a 3-minute test of 50 questions and that you're answering the questions wrong. So it can depend on the organization and the exam itself. It definitely depends what you're looking at when you're talking about these assessments. What I recommend is reaching out to your recruiter and talking to them about it, or you can reach out to an SNHU career advisor or specialist because overall, the assessments, if the company is putting up, it might be important to the company. So it just, I guess it depends on the company and the assessment itself. I hope that helps. Thank you. All right, so Molly is asking, how do you quote unquote sell yourself if you have no experience? That's a really good question, Molly. So obviously, if you're in this chat box right now, you're in school. What I would recommend is kind of trading on your academic experience. If you don't have any work experience, mention how, for example, if you're a business student and you're going into a business administration entry level position, mention how you've had a lot of academic experience and um, you've been able to kind of experience this through an academic setting. Additionally, I would always recommend volunteering because that's a good way to get some entry level experience. And you can also get an internship, or you can look into an internship. Does that help, Molly? Awesome. My local area. So Erin is asking, in my local area, I have a lot of employers dislike the fact that I'm going to school because they view it as an inflexibility. What would you recommend for overcoming that in an interview? That's a really good question, Erin. So two things on that. First and foremost, it's important to remember that no matter what interview you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You want to make sure that the organization and the job you're applying for will have the right fit culturally, environmentally, and job description wise for you. So if they're unhappy with the fact that you're going to school and you've explained to them, look, this won't affect my work. I'm going to school to better my professional my professional career, to better my marketability, to better my knowledge base. And if you explain to them in that way and they still aren't really receptive, perhaps that's not the right organization for you, but ultimately you're going to have to be the one to make that decision. But does that help? Awesome. Any other questions for me? Yeah, I'm going to echo what Danielle's saying. Mention your organizational and time management skills. That can be a multifaceted kind of plus for you because you have learned that in class and translate that into the workplace, as Danielle said.
Hey, Olivia, this is Danielle. Can you hear me?
I can.
I would love for you to share how SNHU career might be able to help when a student is preparing for an interview. So you shared some great tips and things to consider, but what if I schedule an interview with an employer for like next week? Is there something that I can do with SNHU career to prepare for?
Absolutely. And thank you for bringing that up, Danielle. I would definitely recommend scheduling a mock interview with a career outreach specialist or career advisor. It can help take the edge off and it can help you practice your answers, as I said a little earlier. The mock interview it's good to get started. How I run my mock interviews is I'll definitely get a baseline for my students and see how they interview, see what they could improve upon, areas of opportunity, and what they do really well and what they may want to amp up a little bit. Um, Additionally, what you can do is we have services on our website where you can take a look. And actually, I'm going to ask Danielle. Danielle, if you could add that practice interviewing section on the COC Career website, that'd be lovely. And then you guys can take a look at that and see if that helps you as well. Sharon is asking, how do you bring up volunteer experience or relevant experience you gathered years ago? Example, military or team building? That's a really good question. So, as far as military goes, Sharon, I'm definitely going to recommend taking a look at, or I'm sorry, speaking with one of our military reps, our military career advisors, because they will be the subject matter experts on how to bring up military experience and translate it into civilian world. Now, team building and relevant volunteer experience, you can bring that up in an interview. I mean, you can kind of feel it out. But if somebody says keywords such as, I see on your resume that you don't have much experience in XYZ, but you do, and it's just through your volunteer experience, feel free, feel empowered to say that you do have that experience and you were actually very lucky to volunteer on this project where you learned about XYZ and you were able to apply that knowledge today. Does that make sense? Awesome. What other questions do you guys have? Do you have any other questions? While I'm waiting for somebody to let me know if they have any other questions, I just want to take a minute and thank you all for coming to this session. I really appreciate your attending and your questions are really great. Just so you know, I'll be putting up 3 questions right now, and they're about 30 seconds each. If you could please take the time to fill them out, that'd be great. And follow up with an SNHU career outreach specialist or a career advisor if you have any questions. And we're happy to help in any way that we can. I do want to make sure I introduce the next session as Explore Careers